Welcome back to another Midwestern Garage. Today we're going to do a tune-up on a 2017 Lincoln Navigator with the 3.5 Ecoboost. It is the exact same for the F-150s 2011 to 2017 and very similar for the 2018s up to current for the Ecoboost models. I'll show you the tools you'll need and the parts required. So yeah, stay tuned. Alright, tools required, pretty basic. 5/8 spark plug socket, 8mm for the coil packs. Flathead just makes it easy pulling the safety tabs off for the coils. Parts I'm going to be using all NGK stuff, ruthenium spark plugs, and genuine NGK coil packs. This is pretty expensive if you go with this combo. Obviously you can get away with much cheaper. If you're not having a misfire, coil packs usually are not gonna need to be replaced. I'm just doing it because this vehicle's got 122,000, and you know, that's about the time they start going out, so I'm just gonna go in there once and do it all. I think this was about $450 retail for these parts. Like I said, you can pick and choose other options. Double platinum, iridium plugs from Motorcraft are pretty reasonable. Motorcraft coils aren't bad. Standard seems to be a pretty good option. Standard motor parts for a OE replacement coil. First steps you're going to do, it's the exact same on the F-150s. It just doesn't say Lincoln. Pull the oil cap off, pull this cover. I like to put this oil cap back on, just extra insurance. I'm not going to drop anything down in the engine. This is your foam cover, which helps deaden the sound. These are direct injected, so they run very high injector pressure, basically like a diesel. So to keep that ticking noise down from the injection pump, that is what these are for, to keep them quiet so people don't think something's wrong with them, even though that's perfectly normal operation. Alright, once that cover's off, you'll see 3 coil packs on this side. That one there is the back one, this one's the middle one, and that's the front one. They just have a single 8mm holding those down. Driver's side, got the first one there, the second one there, third one, the bolt's kind of under that little wire, but it's still not bad. It is a lot easier if you unplug this plug from the fuel pump to get that coil pack out of the way. Alright, so on this passenger side I'm starting to pull the plugs off. This one, the red plug, the little safety connector that slides in, that one broke off completely. This second one, that's how it should look when it's ready to push that tab in. Now you should be able to push this gray area down, and it'll lift the pin on this side. You can slide the plug out. The back one still has that red safety pushed under, so you cannot press that button down because that red safety tab is pushed up. This is what it should look like before you start pushing in on this pin. Now the problem I'm running into is when I depress this pin all the way down, it's not pushing it down enough to release the tab. So you don't ever want to break off the gray part. The red part is not nearly as critical. If that comes off, that's no big deal. If this gray tab breaks, that's actually what holds the plug. So you can see it down in the center there. That's actually what holds the plug to the coil pack. So if that gray part breaks, you really don't have any good way of holding the plug into the coil. So a little trick I've been doing is I'll take this hook, I'll come in the front side, I'll feel where that plug is, and then I'll actually like rotate the pick, which will let me. Now I can feel that that tab is pulled up. Now I'll put a flathead next to it and just kind of gently slide the plug off. But obviously I can't do that with one hand. So I'll get the rest of these plugs off, hopefully without breaking the tabs. And then I'll pull these single 8mm bolts on each coil and pull the coils out. Alright, got the 3 out of the passenger side. Everything looks great. Fomoco. These are the originals that came out, which is good. It means nobody's been in here having to change stuff. The one important thing to note is make sure that the ends of the boots aren't soaked in oil, because if the grommet that goes around the spark plug well has failed, it'll let oil from the valve cover down into the spark plug well, which isn't typically a huge deal. If enough oil leaks in there, it can cause these coil packs to kind of short out because it's sitting in oil. But another thing you got to note of, if you pull that spark plug out and that well is completely full of oil, well, it wouldn't be completely full of oil because this takes up a good amount of space, but you'll have, you know, a few ounces of oil that drop down in the cylinder. If that's the case, I always crank it over for a few seconds to try and blow that oil out so there's no chance of hydrolocking. It's very, very unlikely that that would happen, but if enough oil goes down in there, you put the new spark plug in, put it all back together, and you go to crank it, there is a small chance, if it's a high enough compression engine, you could actually hydrolock it, possibly bend a rod or something. But like I said, that's super, super not very likely. So now that I got these 3 out, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the spark plugs. I like using a swivel head ratchet so I can get a good angle on it. And make sure you have one that either has a magnet or a rubber grommet in it. And I use a locking style extension, so this socket cannot pull off of this extension. So drop this down in here. Another great thing about using these types of ratchets, you can just straighten them out, spin them out. I'm curious how these are going to look. This has, like I said, 122,000 miles on it, and I'm pretty sure they're the original plugs. I think it should be Iridium's factory, but maybe they're just double platinums. There's a lot of threads on these spark plugs. Does not look bad, and they have been changed. Autolite, they would be Motorcraft if they were original. Looks like XPs, so they are Iridiums. Cool. A little sooty, but this did have a check engine light for a couple 100 miles, and I ended up putting all 4 O2 sensors in, factory Motorcraft ones. So that went away, but it is nice that the previous owner was on top of the maintenance. This is the new NGK. Pretty much looks identical to the Motorcraft. There is a torque spec for putting spark plugs in, so Google it or thumb through your owner's manual, or just snug them down. It's up to you. These do not have any kind of crush washer. There's just a kind of acorn shape right there that wedges into the aluminum cylinder head to seal it. So no washer or anything like that. They just basically bottom out and you snug them up. Call it a day. I'll get this side put back together and show you how the other side goes. Alright, got this side back together. See those NGKs, all the plugs are on. Like I said, this red tab broke off. Those 2 red tabs are in. This one fought me like crazy. The tab wasn't wanting to push down or like clip onto the tab of the coil enough to push that red button, so I actually kind of had to put my hook on the inside and push that tab all the way down so it fully clipped on to the coil pack, and then shove the button in. It was a pain in the butt. I don't know why. The back one, which I thought was going to be the worst one because it's the hardest to get to, I just did it by hand. So I'm going to pull these red tabs back, unplug the connectors, pull those 3/8 mils, and get these coil packs out of the way. I probably will move this PCV out of the way. There's a little finger on the back side, and then it rotates out of the way. That's the little, push this to the side and it unclips it. And then back one, buttons for that connector on that. The button is on the bottom side the way it's sitting. So now that little short harness is out of the way. I'll get these coil packs out of here and show you what that looks like. Okay, while I was doing this tune-up, I did want to point something out to you guys about buying fake coil packs and fake spark plugs, specifically from a certain jungle website. It's everywhere. So over the years, usually I'll run Motorcraft. I know Motorcraft products are heavily copied and impersonated and sold on websites. I have gotten spark plugs, oil filters, and even coil packs that were bogus. Put them in, they didn't run quite right. Did a little more research, found out they were indeed fakes. And you know, you bring it up to the websites and they just give you your money back. They don't care, they keep selling them. So NGK specifically comes in a bag, and if you're concerned at all over getting fakes and you want original Motorcraft, Ford Parts Giant, and there's all kinds of actual Ford dealers that do sell factory parts on their websites. Tasca is another huge website, very competitively priced, sometimes even cheaper than other sites. Another good site I buy a ton of parts from is Rock Auto. Rock Auto, you can pick and choose exactly what you want. Rock Auto, I've never gotten a phony part. And if you want to look into that, there is a bunch of YouTube videos going over the fake spark plugs, that are sold, and oil filters are really bad because the fakes on the oil filters are actually really good from the outside till you cut them open, and I've actually cut one open and it's almost non-existent filter media. But do your due diligence when you're buying parts. I have a commercial account with Napa, so I just gave them part numbers of what I wanted. They got them in, and there's no question about authenticity. And, you know, they got a warranty, and if I have an issue, I can just go a couple miles down the road and deal with them instead of trying to complain and get your money back on certain websites. So just wanted to throw that out there. Make sure, if it looks funny at all, the spark plugs are pretty easy. It looks like they're just chrome plated. It doesn't, stainless kind of has a distinctive kind of gray discoloration, and the fake Motorcraft ones I've gotten, it looks like they just like chrome plated the housings, and then the lettering on Motorcraft wasn't right and the part number was wrong. Anyway, like I said, just if you're particular like I am, and you know, you want to do it once, do it right, put good products in your car, I would go with either OE Motorcraft, Autolite, like these spark plugs. These are also made by Ford, Autolite and Motorcraft. It's all made in the same factory. NGK, another good high-end. They're a little more spendy. Denso, also very good. Bosch, great. Like I said, Standard Motor Parts, pretty good for an affordable replacement for Ford products. Just keep that in mind. I'm just about to pull spark plugs out, put the coils back in. All right, got this side put back together. Minimal casualty. The only thing I had mess up was this plug, this gray plug, split lengthwise. So it kind of opened up, so when I click this plug back on, if I push down on the connector hard enough, the connector would swell open and jump past the tab. So all I did to fix that was put a metal tang zip tie on it, and now even with a screwdriver it doesn't want to pop off. So all the red tabs stayed in place on this side. So pretty successful. Make sure you put your PCV hose back on. Make sure you re-plug in your fuel pressure sensor on your high pressure fuel pump. And then it's just simple as cranking it up, make sure it runs good, and then putting that sound deadening over the fuel pump, and then putting the cover back on. One thing to note that I didn't mention earlier is platinum, iridium, and these plugs I put in here, I forget what they are, rhodium or whatever. They do not recommend that you gap them, because the tool you use to gap the spark plugs can actually scratch the precious metal off of the tip when you're doing it. So this Navigator called for 0.032 gap. The NGK plugs I got were exactly that, so there was no need to gap them anyway. Just something to throw out there. Keep in mind, the higher end precious metal spark plugs, it's not a good idea to gap them, because you can ruin that coating on them. But anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and we'll see you on the next one.